One day, in one of the most desolate and untouched forests in the world, the glow of fairies is seen. Fairies start the day by dancing in the first hours of the day. Fairies in many different colors present a light show. Fairies communicate with each other using a different language. One day, instead of dancing like her other friends, a fairy falls asleep on a leaf. While his friends were dancing, he was far away from him. After a short while, she can't see her fairy friends, who wake up from her sleep. She has a little panic, but she thinks she can find them again because she doesn't forget that she is in her own house. After a while, the fairy starts to panic when she realizes that she can't reach her friends. The fairy is left alone in the forest. The pixie's radiance, with its azure and silvery evidence, was still visible at dusk. The fairy was so beautiful and majestic that it could be noticed even from afar. But the only thing on the fairy's mind was to find her friends. He tried every possible way to reach his friends. But he could not find them. He had lost his direction and track. His family had already gone out in search of the fairy. The pixie's radiance, with its azure and silvery evidence, was still visible at dusk. The fairy was so beautiful and majestic that it could be noticed even from afar. But the only thing on the fairy's mind was to find her friends. He tried every possible way to reach his friends. But he could not find them. He had lost his direction and track. His family had already gone out in search of the fairy. Frightened, he tried to figure out where this movement was coming from in the dark. A wing was visible under the leaf. Lifting a leaf of courage, he realized that there was a fairy under him. The lost fairy looked at the frail fairy she found in disbelief. No light came out of the fairy's eyes. Also, its wings are not as shiny as its own. This little creature, quite different from himself, decided to talk to him. He didn't speak a language the lost fairy knew. When the skinny and frail fairy understood this situation, she used a different language. In this way, the lost fairy was able to understand herself. In fact, he had a very difficult life. His family shunned him because his wings were not bright and magnificent. He didn't get any attention from his family and was left alone. The lost fairy was very upset when she heard this story. He decided to do something for her. But first he had to find his family and friends. For this, she asked him for help. The skinny fairy accepted his offer. He was going to take the lost fairy home. Shortly after, they made their way home. The lost fairy and the skinny fairy searched the house until it got light. The skinny fairy who helped them find the house finally reunited the lost fairy with her family. His family was very happy to see the lost fairy. The skinny fairy, on the other hand, saw this situation and looked sadly. The lost fairy, who turned her back and told her to come towards her, started a new friendship with the skinny fairy. This friendship lasted a lifetime. His family is now used to the skinny fairy's innate appearance. The skinny and frail fairy was not excluded by the family of the lost fairy. Thanks to this interest, the family of the lost fairy was proud of herself.